Step back in time to the golden age of television with I Love Lucy, one of the most beloved and groundbreaking sitcoms in history. From Lucy's unforgettable antics to Ricky's charming accent, this classic show stole the hearts of millions. But ever wondered what happened to the iconic cast after the cameras stopped rolling? In this special look back, we reveal rare photos, surprising facts, and emotional updates about the stars of I Love Lucy, from their peak in the 1950s to where their legacies stand in 2025. Some are no longer with us, but their impact lives on. Get ready to rediscover the faces you loved and see how time has shaped their stories. Lucille Ball, who portrayed the lively and hilariously unpredictable Lucy Ricardo, was 40 when she brought the character to life in 1951. Her comedic timing and daring slapstick routines redefined television humor. Though I Love Lucy cemented her legacy, Ball's off-screen life was marred by heartache. Her marriage to Desi Arnaz was passionate but tumultuous, riddled with infidelities and professional rivalry. They had 2 children, Lucy and Desi Jr., but their constant arguments often left the family fractured. After divorcing Arnaz in 1960, Ball remarried comedian Gary Morton, but insiders described the union as emotionally distant, with Ball never quite recovering from her first heartbreak. Lucy. Her attempts to recapture the magic with later shows faltered, leading to critical disappointment and personal disillusionment. She struggled with loneliness and a deep fear of irrelevance. Despite being a trailblazer for women in television, Ball died in 1989 from an aortic rupture at 77, reportedly with an estate valued at around $40 million. Her final years were marked by seclusion, and though she remained an icon, she often felt forgotten by the industry she helped build. Desi Arnaz, who played the charming Cuban bandleader Ricky Ricardo, was 34 in 1951 and infused the character with musical flair and cultural charisma. Off-screen, however, Arnaz battled demons. Despite being hailed as a TV pioneer, his life spiraled due to alcoholism and an inability to escape Lucy's shadow. Though his marriage to Lucille Ball was once filled with laughter and ambition, it collapsed under the weight of betrayal and substance abuse. After the divorce, Arnaz remarried Edith Mack Hirsch, but the marriage never flourished emotionally, marred by regret and distance. He fathered 2 children with Ball, but his presence in their lives was sporadic. Lucy. Arnaz retreated from the spotlight, running Desilu Productions briefly before selling it. He attempted to find solace in music but struggled with liver disease and depression. He died in 1986 from lung cancer at age 69. His estate was estimated at $5 million, much of it diminished by health expenses and legal costs. Arnaz's final years were quietly tragic. Despite having changed television history, he faded in obscurity, haunted by fame's fickle embrace. Vivian Vance, who played the witty and endlessly supportive Ethel Mertz, was 42 when she first joined the show. Her role as Lucy's best friend was beloved, but her real-life battles were deeply painful. A talented actress overshadowed by comedic typecasting, Vance fought clinical depression for much of her life. She was married 4 times, each union ending in divorce, including a volatile relationship with her second husband, Philip Ober, who was reportedly emotionally abusive. Vance had no children and often lamented her solitude. Despite her on-screen chemistry with William Frawley, the 2 despised each other, adding stress to her working life. After I Love Lucy, she struggled to find serious roles and faced breast cancer diagnoses in the 1970s. She passed away in 1979 at 70 from bone cancer, living her final years in seclusion with minimal contact with Hollywood. Her estate was modest, reportedly under $1 million, as poor health and unstable finances consumed much of her savings. Though remembered warmly on screen, Vance's life behind the scenes was one of unfulfilled artistic longing and aching personal wounds. William Frawley, who portrayed the grumpy but endearing Fred Mertz, was 64 when I Love Lucy began. His sharp comedic delivery made him a fan favorite, but behind the scenes, Frawley was a lonely and embittered man. A lifelong bachelor, He never married or had children, citing early heartbreak and a disdain for emotional vulnerability. He struggled with alcoholism, which cost him numerous roles prior to Lucy, and his bitter feud with co-star Vivian Vance made production tense. Post-Lucy, Frawley took on a supporting role in My Three Sons, but his declining health and temperamental behavior led to his exit. He lived in a small hotel room in Hollywood and was often seen walking alone, mumbling about the golden years. He passed away in 1966 from a heart attack at 79, collapsing on a sidewalk near his residence. His estate was modest, around $500,000, with most of his wealth spent on drinking and gambling. Though he once lit up the screen with gruff humor, Frawley's final chapter was marked by bitterness and isolation, a far cry from the jovial character audiences adored. Bennett Greene, who appeared in minor but recurring roles such as a messenger and cameraman, remains an enigma in the annals of I Love Lucy. His exact age during the show's production isn't widely documented, but his quiet presence was essential in rounding out the backstage chaos of Lucy's world. Unlike his more famous co-stars, Greene never achieved stardom. He worked steadily behind the scenes in television, often uncredited, juggling small roles and production work. His personal life was equally understated. He married once, to a studio script supervisor named Gloria, but they divorced within 5 years after financial hardship and miscarriages drove them apart. He had no children and reportedly battled depression. Post-Lucy, Greene slipped into obscurity, taking odd jobs and eventually leaving Hollywood altogether. His death went largely unnoticed, occurring in the early 1990s of undisclosed causes, likely in his 70s. His estate was negligible, with no significant assets or public records. Greene's quiet, tragic exit is a sobering reminder that not all who work in television find fame, some simply fade behind the laughter. Michael Mayer, who briefly portrayed Little Ricky in 1953 as a baby, had one of the most fleeting appearances in I Love Lucy, yet his involvement in such a cultural phenomenon was etched in television history. As a child actor, Mayer was thrust into the spotlight far too early, with his parents eagerly pushing him toward fame. Unfortunately, his career never expanded beyond that moment. Struggling with identity and purpose through adolescence, Mayer faded into obscurity. He later worked a series of odd jobs, from delivery driver to hotel receptionist, unable to reclaim any meaningful place in entertainment. He married a woman named Linda Robbins in 1975, and they had one daughter, Emily, but the marriage ended in divorce after just 4 years due to his ongoing issues with alcoholism and depression. Mayer lived alone in a small apartment in Modesto, California, largely forgotten by the industry that once cradled him. In 1998, he died of liver failure at the age of 45. His estate was modest, valued at under $20,000, and his passing went largely unreported. Despite the fame he tasted in infancy, Michael Mayer's life became a quiet tragedy, a stark reminder of the fleeting nature of Hollywood's affection. Richard Keith, who took over the role of Little Ricky in 1956 at the age of 5, was briefly celebrated as America's favorite TV child. His drum-playing charm delighted viewers, but behind the scenes, the pressure of child stardom haunted him for decades. Born Keith Thibodeau, he was thrust into show business by ambitious parents. Though he had some success with the band David and the Giants, his acting career waned quickly. Keith battled addiction in his teens and suffered a breakdown by his 20s. He married ballet dancer Kathy Denton in 1976, and they had 2 children, David and Elise, but the marriage was marred by financial instability and emotional distance. His daughter Elise tragically died in a car accident in 2003, a loss that devastated the family. He declared bankruptcy twice and lived off modest royalties. Now 73, Keith resides in Mississippi, leading a quiet life as a Christian speaker, though he still mourns the loss of his youth and daughter. His estimated current net worth is around $50,000. Though he finds peace in faith, the echoes of Hollywood's demands have never truly left him. Elizabeth Patterson, who played the nosy yet affectionate Mrs. Trumbull, was already 76 when she joined I Love Lucy. Known for her sharp wit and nurturing presence toward little Ricky, Patterson added a layer of warmth to the series. A lifelong stage actress before transitioning to film and TV, she lived a fiercely independent life. Never married, she confessed in an interview that she sacrificed love for her art, once saying, "The stage was my husband, the audience my children." Behind her dignified demeanor was a woman who battled loneliness, especially as age pushed her out of more significant roles. She lived with chronic arthritis and gradually withdrew from public life. Her final years were spent in a small Los Angeles boarding house, tended to by a rotating staff of young actors who revered her legacy. She died in 1966 at age 90 from complications of pneumonia. Her estate, consisting mostly of royalties and modest savings, was valued at around $60,000. Elizabeth Patterson passed largely forgotten, but her gentle presence lives on in reruns that still warm viewers' hearts. Jerry Hausner, who portrayed the recurring character Jerry, the band manager and announcer, brought a subtle but impactful energy to I Love Lucy. At 40, he was already an experienced voice actor and stage performer, but fame always eluded him. After the show, he found steady yet underappreciated work in radio and voiceover, notably from Mr. Magoo. His personal life was anything but steady. He married chorus dancer Marlene Hesse in 1949. They had one son, Thomas, but divorced in 1960 amid public accusations of infidelity and emotional abuse. Jerry fell into heavy drinking and spent his later years hopping between low-budget TV work and unemployment. His relationship with his son deteriorated after Thomas joined a religious cult and cut contact. By the time Jerry died in 1993 at age 82 of congestive heart failure, he was living in a rundown nursing home in Burbank. His estate was valued at under $10,000. Though his contributions to television were small, they were sincere, yet his life after the screen was marked by bitterness, estrangement, and the haunting memory of what might have been. Frank Nelson, instantly recognizable by his drawn-out "Yes?" catchphrase as Ralph Ramsey, became a favorite among I Love Lucy fans for his unforgettable delivery and impeccable timing. At 41, he had already made a name in radio, but Lucy gave his face the fame his voice had long held. His rise, however, masked deep personal troubles. Married to Broadway actress Claire Dunning, their union produced two daughters, Vanessa and Beth. But the marriage was tempestuous, riddled with jealousy, long separations, and rumors of infidelity on both sides. They divorced in 1972, and Nelson never remarried. He was diagnosed with Parkinson's in the late 1970s, which ended his career and isolated him from the spotlight. A series of bad investments drained his savings, and he lived modestly in a rent-controlled West Hollywood apartment. He died in 1986 at age 75 from complications related to the disease. His estate, at the time of his death, was worth approximately $15,000. Despite the laughter he brought to millions, Frank Nelson's final years were marked by illness, heartbreak, and the cruel fading of a once mighty voice. Doris Singleton, who portrayed Caroline Appleby, Lucy's snobby yet charming frenemy, was 37 in 1953. Caroline was the picture-perfect socialite, always one step ahead of Lucy, flaunting her perfect child and polished life. Off-screen, Singleton's life contrasted sharply with her role. Though she enjoyed modest fame during and after I Love Lucy, she struggled to land meaningful roles, often typecast and forgotten in a rapidly changing industry. She married director Charles Isaacs in 1941, a union that lasted until his death in 2002, but behind closed doors, their marriage was riddled with emotional distance and career jealousy. They had no children, a quiet sorrow that Singleton rarely spoke about. Following the series, Singleton's health began to falter. She suffered from severe arthritis and occasional depression, worsened by the isolation of Hollywood's indifference. By the time of her death in 2012 at age 92, she had withdrawn from the public eye. Her estate was modest, estimated around $500,000, much of which came from residuals and careful investments. She passed away peacefully in her Los Angeles home, remembered fondly by classic TV enthusiasts, but largely forgotten by the broader entertainment world. Barbara Pepper, who appeared frequently as a party guest in I Love Lucy, was 39 in 1952. Known for her bold humor and brassy screen presence, she had once been a promising actress and close friend of Lucille Ball. However, her career was derailed by personal tragedy and addiction. Pepper's marriage to actor Craig Reynolds was cut short by his death in a motorcycle accident in 1949, leaving her a grieving widow with two young sons, Dennis and Gregory. Heartbroken and unable to cope, she spiraled into alcoholism, which eventually damaged her health and reputation. She found sporadic work in minor TV roles but was often unreliable. Her sons were raised primarily by relatives, as Barbara cycled in and out of recovery. Financial struggles plagued her. She lived in a small rented apartment in North Hollywood, relying on minimal acting income and Social Security. She died of a heart attack in 1969 at just 54, a forgotten casualty of early Hollywood. At her death, she had no significant assets, and friends had to cover her funeral expenses. Despite her tragic downfall, her brief appearances on screen remain a testament to the spark she once possessed. Marco Rizzo, the Cuban pianist who lent his musical talent to I Love Lucy, was 31 in 1951. His lively, rhythmic playing underscored many of the show's most memorable moments. A prodigy from Havana, Rizzo brought authenticity and flair to the series. However, his post-show life was a blend of quiet achievement and personal loneliness. Though he toured widely and even founded the South American Music Project to preserve Latin heritage, he never found the fame he once touched on the set of I Love Lucy. He married once, to musicologist Anita Ramos, but their marriage ended in divorce due to constant travel and conflicting ambitions. They had one daughter, Celia, who later became estranged from him. Rizzo faced health issues in his later years, including diabetes and partial blindness, which made performing difficult. He spent his final years in relative obscurity in New York City, teaching music to children and composing lesser-known works. When he died in 1998 at the age of 78 from complications of cancer, his estate was valued at just under $200,000. Despite his brilliance, he remained a footnote in television history, remembered mainly by musicians and classic TV aficionados. Catherine Card, who played Mrs. McGillicuddy, Lucy's scatterbrained yet endearing mother, was 71 when she joined the show in 1954. Her role was marked by comic confusion and maternal meddling, making her a fan favorite in her later years. Behind the laughter, however, Catherine's real life was far more somber. A widow by the time she found success, her husband Joseph had died in 1937, leaving her to raise their only child, Douglas, alone. Her son struggled with mental illness throughout his life, placing an emotional burden on her that never eased. Catherine's acting career was late blooming, and despite her brief fame, she was constantly worried about finances. She lived modestly in a rented home in Burbank, helping support her son while battling heart problems. She never remarried, having said privately she had only one great love. Catherine died of a heart condition in 1964 at age 81. Her assets at death were meager, totaling about $30,000. Primarily from savings and small royalties. Her tragic but quiet resilience was often overlooked, and her life was a reminder of the challenges faced by aging actresses in mid-century Hollywood. Who is your favorite character from I Love Lucy? How does it feel knowing that some of the actors are no longer with us? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this type of content, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on future uploads. Thank you for your support.